A few months after Peter Rabbit, SPA released their third installment to Hotel Transylvania titled Hotel Transylvania, Summer Vacation. Set some time after the second film, Dracula begins to feel lonely on account of how long it's been since his wife Martha died. When Mavis, feeling as though Dracula is overworked managing the hotel, books the family, alongside their friends, for a monster-exclusive cruise for them to have a vacation, it turns out to be a trap set by Erica Van Helsing, the great-granddaughter of Dracula's enemy, Abraham Van Helsing, who, having managed to stay alive for many years by replacing his body with machinery, plots on leading the monsters to Atlantis to be destroyed. However, once Dracula ends up zinging with Erica, it ends up throwing her plans, and by extension the monster's vacation, for a loop. In September 2015, producer Michelle Murdocha revealed that even before the release of the second film, the studio was already discussing a third installment and looking at ways to expand the franchise further. However, she believed that neither she nor director Genndy Tartakovsky would likely return, as both were occupied with Tartakovsky's planned project Can You Imagine?, which was ultimately shelved. Around the same time, Tartakovsky himself said in the wrap that he intended to step away from the series, explaining that he felt 2 films were enough and that he wanted to pursue new creative ideas. Despite those comments, Sony Pictures Animation officially announced in November 2015 that a third Hotel Transylvania film was in development, with a planned release date of September 21, 2018, under the working title Hotel Transylvania 3. Tartakovsky later changed course and officially returned to direct the third movie. The screenplay was written by Tartakovsky alongside Austin Powers writer Michael McCullers. In June 2016, Sony confirmed Tartakovsky's return following his temporary leave to complete the final season of Samurai Jack. According to Tartakovsky, the inspiration for the film came from a particularly unpleasant family vacation, combined with the influence of the National Lampoon's vacation movies. This led to the idea of setting the story aboard a cruise ship. By November 2017, the film had officially received the title Hotel Transylvania 3, Summer Vacation. One of the animation team's greatest technical challenges involved creating the gigantic kraken and realistically simulating the large-scale water effects and destruction sequences tied to the creature. Early concept art also featured a notably different version of Erica, originally designed with medium-length curly black hair and a stronger resemblance to Martha from the first film. The design was eventually altered because the animators wanted Erica to feel more visually distinct and like her own character. Several story ideas were also abandoned during development. One concept would have portrayed Van Helsing as a ghost haunting his descendants after dying decades earlier. This movie also reuses an idea for the first film, being that Johnny was a descendant of the Van Helsings, and reworked it into Dracula being the one who falls in love with one of their descendants. When the movie came out on July 13, 2018, it earned some decent reviews. It got a 62% on Rotten Tomatoes, and critics said that it is an alright follow-up to the first 2. And I'd like to point out here that as of this writing, I will be ceasing singling out any reviews from single critics for pacing reasons. For the box office, it earned $167.5 million in the United States and Canada and $361.1 million in other countries, for a worldwide total of $528.6 million. It also earned 2 Kids' Choice Awards for Sandler and Gomez's performances as Dracula and Mavis respectively. I also won't be mentioning any nominations for, sorry to repeat myself, pacing reasons. The movie also had a tie-in video game called Hotel Transylvania 3 Monsters Overboard. Hotel Transylvania Summer Vacation was released on DVD, Blu-ray and 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray a few months later on October 9th. As for my thoughts on the movie, I liked it better than the first sequel. I also enjoy the Van Helsings as villains and consider it to be one of Sony's underrated movies. I also like the Macarena scene near the end. Hotel Transylvania Summer Vacation is a sequel that most people can either take or leave depending on its quality. But for me, I'd like to see it as a sequel that doesn't have much to complain about. Later that year, Sony released another sequel to a live-action/animated hybrid film with Goosebumps 2: Haunted Halloween. Separated from the events of the first movie, this sequel takes place in Wardenclyffe, New York, where teen girl Sarah Quinn, alongside her brother Sonny and his friend Sam Carter, end up meeting Slappy when Sonny and Sam release him from an unpublished Goosebumps manuscript at a rundown old house. When Slappy's attempt to take over their family ends up with him being tossed away, he takes revenge by animating the costumes at a local store during Halloween to terrorize the town, and also kidnaps Sarah and Sonny's mother Kathy. The Quinn siblings and Sam band together to stop Slappy and also contact R.L. Stine himself for help, prompting him to come to Wardenclyffe to once again face the demonic puppet. On September 2, 2015, reports surfaced that a sequel to Goosebumps was already in development, with Sony Pictures searching for a writer to helm the project. On January 17, 2017, the sequel was officially given a release date of January 26, 2018, while director Rob Letterman confirmed he would return to direct. However, less than a month later, on February 6, 2017, the film was delayed to September 21, 2018, taking over the release slot previously reserved for Hotel Transylvania 3. By May 2017, the sequel was being referred to as Goosebumps Horrorland, and it was reported that Jack Black was expected to reprise his role as R.L. Stine. Later that year, in November, screenwriter Rob Lieber was hired to rewrite the script. In December 2017, major changes behind the scenes emerged when Ari Sandel replaced Letterman as director due to Letterman's commitment to directing Pokémon Detective Pikachu for Legendary Entertainment. Around this time, Variety reported that two different versions of the screenplay existed. One featuring Jack Black's return as Stine and another written entirely without the character because the filmmakers were uncertain whether Black would participate. The sequel's release date was pushed again in December 2017, this time to October 12, 2018. The film was subsequently retitled Goosebumps Slappy's Revenge before eventually settling on its final name, of Haunted Halloween. Principal photography began on March 7, 2018. Early reports stated that Avery Lee Jones, who performed Slappy physically in the first film, would also provide the character's voice. However, while Black ultimately chose to reprise his role as Stine, it was soon revealed that impressionist Mick Wingert was brought on to replace him as Slappy.
So what's the plan, friend? You must have brought me out for something fun.
And trust me, you don't want to find out what happens when I get mad.
Though Jones did end up providing all of Slappy's laughs and a handful of his lines. When the film was released, it only earned mixed reviews from critics with a 48% on Rotten Tomatoes, with most people saying that while it has entertainment value, it pales in comparison to the original. The film grossed out $46.7 million in the United States and Canada and $46.6 million in other countries, receiving a worldwide total of $93.3 million. Some months later, the film was released on digital on Christmas Day 2018, and on DVD and Blu-ray on January 15, 2019. As for my thoughts on the film, I kind of have to side with the critics because I consider the movie to only be passable at best and forgettable at worst. I barely remember most things from this movie, and to put it simply, I think the first movie is better. Goosebumps 2: Haunted Halloween is a textbook example of a sequel that, while the necessity for its existence is up for debate, is a tolerable sequel as there are far worser sequels to many movies out there. Believe me. And I hope that a third Goosebumps movie will be made in the foreseeable future because that ending where Stine is sucked into the book felt a bit too horrific. A little while after Goosebumps 2, SPA released what is considered to be their most ambitious movie yet, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. In this animated version starring the famous web-slinger, teen boy Miles Morales has just transferred to a prestigious new school where he quickly begins to feel like a fish out of water. However, when he witnesses a brawl between his world's version of Spider-Man and the Kingpin, he gets bitten by a radioactive spider and gains spider-like powers himself. However, after Kingpin kills Spider-Man, Miles ends up meeting another version of Spider-Man from another dimension who was brought to his world by a collider invention of Kingpins, and pretty soon, both of them join forces with a gang of Spider-Man versions from alternate universes to stop Kingpin when his attempt to use the collider to bring a version of his deceased wife and son to his dimension may result in putting the entire multiverse at stake. After the November 2014 cyber attack on Sony Pictures, leaked emails between then co-chairman Amy Pascal and President Doug Belgrad revealed that the studio was considering a fresh direction for the Spider-Man franchise through an animated comedy film spearheaded by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller. During Pascal's tenure at Sony, she approached Lord and Miller about the idea of developing an animated Spider-Man feature. The duo agreed, provided they could adapt Dan Slott's 2014 Spider-Verse storyline and focus the film on Miles as the lead character. Sony executives plan to further discuss the project, along with several other Spider-Man spin-offs, during a company summit held in January 2015. At the 2015 CinemaCon event in April, Tom Rothman officially announced that the animated Spider-Man film was scheduled for release on July 20, 2018. The project would be produced by Lord, Miller, Avi Arad, Matt Tolnick, and Pascal, while Lord and Miller were also writing the treatment. Rothman explained that the film would exist alongside Sony's live-action Spider-Man movies. Sony later clarified that the animated feature would operate independently from the live-action Spider-Man universe, taking place in its own alternate reality separate from the Marvel Cinematic Universe and its version of Spider-Man.
Can we just be done?
Ooh, we're just getting started.
No, with the whole multiverse thing.
Bob Persichetti joined as director in December 2015, while Peter Ramsey and Rodney Rothman later came aboard as co-directors. The screenplay was written by Lord and Rothman from a story that Lord had written. Since several Spider-Man films had already been made, the filmmakers decided the animated feature needed to stand apart by focusing on Miles, who had never before appeared in a theatrical Spider-Man film. Comic writer Brian Michael Bendis, co-creator of Miles Morales, served as a consultant during development. The filmmakers repeatedly revised the story, even rewriting major portions of the third act less than a year before release. Early drafts included several ideas that were later abandoned, such as a romance between Miles and Gwen, which was later carried over to the sequel, more on that later, and I'm guessing before the film was announced to be in its own separate universe. Appearances by the live-action Spider-Men played by Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland, and even a cameo from Doctor Strange were planned. Casting for the film began in 2017, with Shameik Moore chosen to voice Miles and Liev Schreiber cast as the Kingpin. One standout casting choice is Kathryn Hahn, who voiced Erica in Hotel Transylvania 3, as a female version of Dr. Octopus named Olivia Octavius after the filmmakers reimagined the character during development. The animation for the film was created by Sony Pictures Imageworks in Vancouver and aimed to make audiences feel as though they had stepped directly inside a comic book. The filmmakers blended CGI with hand-drawn comic techniques such as halftones, Ben-Day dots, Kirby crackle, motion lines, and onomatopoeia effects. Different animation styles were used for each spider character, with influences ranging from classic comic art to Japanese anime and manga. The production became one of the studio's most ambitious animated projects, eventually employing as many as 177 animators.
Come on, that's a high percent.
When the movie was released on December 14, 2018, it received overwhelming acclaim from critics and audiences alike. It earned a 97% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes, and a majority of the praise went to the movie's bold storytelling, emotional depth, humor, and groundbreaking animation style, which I think deserves a mention because this went on to inspire other animated studios outside of Sony to give their films the same treatment, like with DreamWorks in 2022 when they made The Bad Guys and Puss in Boots 2, to Paramount in 2023 when they created Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. The movie grossed out $190.2 million in the United States and Canada and $203.4 million in the other countries, for a total of $394 million. The movie also won the Best Animated Feature Film 3 times at the 76th Golden Globe Awards, the 24th Critics' Choice Awards, and the 91st Academy Awards, becoming the first non-Disney or Pixar film to win Best Animated Feature since Rango back in 2011. and had several other awards and nominations. The film then went on to appear on many critics' top 10 lists. Sometime later, the film was released on digital download by Sony Pictures Home Entertainment on February 26, 2019, before getting released on Blu-ray, Ultra HD Blu-ray, and DVD a few weeks later on March 19th. As for what I thought about the film, I enjoyed it. I liked seeing the different styles of Spider-Man, with Spider-Ham being my favorite, and enjoyed the animation thusly for what it is, and I very much consider it inspirational to the other animated movies I mentioned a moment ago. Into the Spider-Verse is a prime example of what Sony can accomplish if they focus on good storytelling and character development, and if SPA kept this up, their movies would be great for all to see. Though, what came sometime after Into the Spider-Verse sort of put their movies in a complicated situation.